Boozeketeers. How you doing? It's Tuesday night, and we all know what that means. I was just here updating the Boozeketeers naughty list, and it's I'm only on the first group of you, and then hopefully I'll have half a page left for the good list. But how are you guys doing? Hope you've had a great week, and I know I did. It's been good. We aren't snowed in currently, which is always nice. But we're here at the Wicked Wench, where every day is Black Hot Day, kind of ish. For those of you who missed last week's show, it's now up on the YouTube. We're current. All the past episodes are up there, so you can go peruse that. Like I said, you can binge watch, and it'll take you like 2 days now. So if you're sick and you want to feel worse, feel free. It's a good way to go. But we want to say thanks again to our hosts in Sacramento at the Lava Lounge. We had a really good time broadcasting from there, and had some good drinks, and made some new friends. And I'd say the show was good because that's what I've been told. We had a few drinks that night aside from the one on the show. Yeah, they have the Lava Lounge there, a fine tiki bar. When we got there, I'm gonna let you a little on the back. The what do you call it? The sneak. What do you call that? What is that in the movies with the behind the scenes? So we got to the Lava Lounge, and he said a dangerous thing, which he said, "Go ahead, whatever you want to make there, you can take control of the bar." So actually, Boozeketeer West went back there, and he decided to be pre-guest bartender, and we decided we were going to make some Mai Tais, but we didn't have like everything that would go into the Mai Tais, so pretty much if we were missing a recipe, I think he substituted rum. So so we were well rummed up by the time the show started, and I think you will see where that rum went if you watch the show. But so hey, what are we doing? What are we doing tonight? Tonight we're gonna time travel. There you go. Tonight we're going backwards. So I have to. I don't know how I should precursor it or get right into it. So tonight we're making a cocktail called the Aviation. It's a classic cocktail. It's one that came to. I mean, I've heard of it, but I'd never had one. Our friend Ivy down at the Boozeketeer. Go see if you can. Go see Ivy down at the Boozeketeer. She'll set you up with all kinds of good stuff. So we were talking to her, and she was saying that she had been drinking Aviations. We were talking about hard to find ingredients and different sort of things, because I always talk about the dusty bottles and all the stuff that a lot of people, it's all fallen by the wayside because people, mainstream liquor stores, nobody's buying the stuff, so it sits around and it gets dusty, and then it's people like us who have to come in and liberate it from its non-imbibing prison. But it was like so she said that, and I thought we should try those. We should make some Aviations, and so. I got out my books because the Aviation is an old cocktail. It goes back to 1900s, and so I got out some books because I decided I needed to know how to make it right. And so I got out the Bartender's Bible. This is a good one. This is from the 30s, and it was 1937. No mention of the Aviation. I don't know what that's about. I thought it's got to be. The thing was invented a long time ago. So then I got out the Bartender's Bible, the modern one, and this one's got there's all the stuff in there, not the Aviation. What the old Mr. Boston. Now old Mr. Boston, he's going to have it because old Mr. Boston had pretty much everything you could possibly want, and except for the Aviation. Well, Bartender's Little Black Book, I'm sure it would have it, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? You got to figure it's it's got all the secret stuff in it, and it's got all the secret stuff except it does not have the Aviation. So, New York Bartender's Guide. Now, here's the thing: is I know that the Savoy has a recipe for it, but I don't have the Savoy book. But I figured New York Bartender's Guide, it's got to have it. And lo and behold, there it is. So I found it. It took me all these books. If I can't find it, I will resort to the internet. But I always like to look for it in the print versions first, just because it makes me feel better somehow. But so I looked it up, And here it is, the Aviation. And so I figured we'll just make it. Here it is. It's fairly simple. Well, this one, 4 parts gin, 1 part fresh lemon juice, 1 part maraschino liqueur, and apricot brandy, 1/2 teaspoon. So I did then cross-reference this, and I could not find any other recipes that called for the apricot brandy. So I'm going to make the one that is the most common, which was the actual one that I found out on the internet in the Savoy recipe, which calls for, well, let's go ahead and let's shake this thing up and see what happens. So we're going to start with, oh, where's my, there it is. Start with the consummate shaker, half filled with ice. And so this recipe here calls for some gin. We just happen to have some. Look at that. It's like Providence. But now where'd my I think I may have taken my jigger up to be washed and did not come back with it. How can I not? I have like 37 jiggers. Well, producer Maggie's going to grab me a jigger. So calls for gin, calls for lemon juice. Just happen to have some fresh lemon juice there. Calls for maraschino liqueur. We're going to talk about this here in just a moment. And it calls for a garnish, maraschino cherry. Got that right here too as well. So as soon as we have the measuring device, we will commence. It's funny, you know. I don't know if I do better when I'm completely harried, because today I had everything all set up beforehand and then relaxed with a nice glass of bourbon before the show, and see what happens if I forget stuff. So if I'm going to forget stuff, I should do it at the last minute. It's always better to forget something at the last minute than to remember it when it's too late. That's my advice to you. That's not really advice, but so I guess while we're waiting, we can talk about some stuff. So gin, lemon juice, that's easy. Maraschino liqueur. Now this is something that most of you probably don't have a lot of. Oh, thank you. Look at that. Also, all measuring devices that you could possibly want to have. All right, so let's get back to the business at hand here. We're going 1.5 ounces of gin. Which is one of these because 1.5 ounce shot glass. It's always easy. 1/2 ounce of lemon juice. Now this says 2 dashes. That's one thing I read a bunch of different, like teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon, 1/4 ounce, like all kinds of different things. And it says 2 dashes. This bottle just happens to have a dash bottle top on it, so 2. There we go. So maraschino liqueur. This is another thing, which is I've read some recipes out there that were written by people who did not have any idea what maraschino liqueur is, and they wrote this recipe and other recipes calling for maraschino cherry juice, and then it says from jar. So basically, people were taking the jar of cherries for garnish and using the juice from that. So here's the thing. Here's where we're going to get a little. Well, I'm going to finish this up here and start drinking it, and then tell you all a little tale. Alrighty. Oh, lost my cherry. Bing. Now that is, so what I just dunked in there, move these out of the side so I don't spill all over them. Exception of you, because I'm going to talk to you later. So, let's see what I've done and then we'll talk some more here. interesting. It's basically a sort of a gin sour with a little bit of a little cherry nuance, which comes from the Luxardo. Seems like it would be better with something, but seems like it needs something. It's not bad though. It's not bad. Now this recipe, this is the Savoy recipe. This is probably what you would, if you go into pretty much any bar these days, well, except for Martin's bar. If you go into Whitechapel, he's probably going to serve you up a proper, but we'll see. This is probably what you'll get if you order an Aviation in most bars, I should say, not all, because if anyone's into their craft cocktails, they're gonna be, well, they might say, do you want classic or do you want new? They may, who knows? But so this is what you'll get, and it's a fine cocktail. It's like I said, I think it needs a little something. But all right, look at that. I sipped it down so you can see this maraschino cherry in here. Now this is a standard bar maraschino cherry. There's better stuff out there, but we'll get into that in a minute. So, Luxardo maraschino liqueur. This is it's a liqueur, like I said. It is made from cherries. It's basically a cherry-infused neutral spirit with a little bit of sweetener in it. And so here's the deal. Maraschino liqueur is what they used to soak the preserved cherries in. Now you can actually, and that's where you get the name maraschino cherries. And I've also heard maraschino, and I've heard maraschino for different versions of that, but I always say maraschino because that's how I've said it forever. So anyway, so you can buy, here's the thing, Luxardo maraschino liqueur. This is the original maraschino liqueur. This is the one. This is the one. If it calls for maraschino liqueur, they're talking about this. And you can buy Luxardo cherries, which are maraschino cherries they're very high quality. They're not. They taste absolutely nothing like the bar cherries that you're going to get pretty much anywhere else. They're sweet. The texture is completely different. They have a more cherry flavor. They have a more alcohol flavor because they're soaked in booze. So I'd say if you got $20 laying around and want to buy a jar of cherries, go get yourself some Luxardos because you won't. Like I said, if you can afford it, you won't regret it because it's pretty good stuff. So anyway, so maraschino cherry, maraschino liqueur, that's what makes it. But people think of this, and it's this big loop. So anyway, if you see a recipe that calls for maraschino liqueur, don't pour the juice out of the jar of cherries into there, unless it happens to be Luxardo cherries, because then it kind of works. But yeah, so this is the stuff. This is the stuff when it calls for that. So anyway, so yeah, so it got me thinking. I'm enjoying this fine cocktail, and it is a fine cocktail. But I thought, why do they call it an Aviation? What's the deal? Is it? I mean, there's plenty of reasons. This thing was invented back in the teens. Air travel, just becoming a thing. A lot of cocktails were named after whatever was popular. That was like, usually someone made a cocktail out of whatever was hip, whatever was cool, whatever the jet setters were doing. And the reason was because it paid off. Someone went to a bar and they said, I want that new Aviation cocktail because I'd like to fly, And so I thought, well, okay, well, that's probably it. Or, any number of things. Could transatlantic crossing, and there's Spirit of St. Louis. There's all sorts of aviation things. So I'm wondering about that. And I'm looking at other recipes. And I came upon the actual recipe for the Aviation, which is what we're going to make next. Now, what we just made, like I said, is what you're going to get in most bars. But that's not where it ends. Because that's not even where it begins. Because it begins back in 1916. Think of that, huh? So I told you, time travel. And there's a guy there by the name of Enslin who invented this cocktail, and I think I have it in my notes here. Hugo Enslin, head bartender at the Hotel Wallach in New York in the early 20th century, first published the recipe for the drink in the 1916 Recipes for Mixed Drinks. So now we're going to try the recipe that as it was invented, as it was meant to be. You get the same thing, shaker half filled with ice. And I have to warn you, I might digress after we get going here because this is because it's important stuff. Come back to you. We'll come back to you. That's right. So same thing here. We're going to start with 1.5 ounces of fine gin, and you can use. This is another one of those ones you can use. I'm using. People are. I already mentioned Martin. Now he's probably watching and going, "Are you serious? You're using Gordon's?" Gordon's is kind of a go-to well brand for me, just because it's cheap and it tastes like gin. We were going to actually use Aviation gin, but couldn't get a hold of that tonight. It's a craft small batch gin, but this is on hand, so we use the Gordon's, and it isn't Gilby's, as Aaron will tell you. So gin. Now in this one we're going with a measure, with a 1/2 ounce instead of the 2 dashes, and this is going to bring up. That's going to bring up the cherry essence a bit, because this is after all made from cherries, with cherries, of cherries, then with of them there now. 1/2 ounce of lemon juice. And then you're thinking, wait a minute, you already made this. This is that same drink. It's the same thing. You already made it. But hey, you know what? Here's the deal. The secret ingredient. The secret weapon, as it were. This is creme de violet. Now, creme de violet, this has its whole own thing going on. But I'm gonna make this, and then I'm gonna digress while sipping. Now I have to tell you, full disclosure, this is as far as I've gone with this, where I've not actually had the proper Aviation. So here we go. See. We'll have to see. Now, see, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it in that light. Yep. But here's the deal. The reason it's called the Aviation is because when you make it with creme de violet, the creme de violet turns it a sky blue color. Had nothing to do with all the other things that might have been popular at the time. It was called the Aviation because it looked like the sky, and people thought, what a good name. Well, not people, but at least one guy thought that. So now, here's the thing. I can either try this and then talk about stuff, or talk about stuff and try it. I don't know. I don't know whether we're the right way to go with that, because this is uncharted territory for me. I've heard a lot of things about a lot of things here. Oh, far better, far superior to the Savoy recipe. But I'm gonna have to give a. I'm running out of words tonight. I'm gonna have to give a little bit of a thing about that. Creme de violet. So creme de violet, there's creme de violet, there's creme de Yvette, and then there's a thing called parfait amour. And these are all basically very similar substances, but they all have their own unique characteristics. Creme de violet is probably, of the three, the heaviest on the violet flavor. Now, if those of you, this is one of those things. Have you ever had those? They're called chowards. violet candies. They're little square candies. They're kind of chalky and taste like flowers. Those are violet. You can get violet pastels, which are little hard candies, and they have a little aniseed in the center, but all the way down they taste like violet. Now, violet is not everybody's cup of tea because it tastes like a flower, and I have heard people say various reviews of the Aviation, from Sublime to hand soap. And I'm going to say Sublime at minimum. I don't know if that's my new favorite. I'm gonna walk this over to producer Maggie so she can have it. Probably not gonna be my last one, but so you can just have a little taste of the hoopla. Is that what did we get? Thumbs up, thumbs down on that. She's still thinking. Spray it on before you go out. I think it's good. I'm quite happy with it. But then again, I like violet candy, so I like that violet flavor. It is very floral. It does have. I mean, what is perfume? Alcohol and flower petals. What is this? Alcohol and flower petals. So that's what. So that's the thing. So creme de violet is it's basically it's booze and then flower petals and then fruits and different things. The creme de violet tends to be, like I said, the most violet of them, but each one is slightly different. The Parfait Amour has more rose flavor, which I think would be more perfumey, and more orange flavor to it because it has a base of curacao. But anyway, this is a fine thing. I'm happy with it. And interesting thing is that so I was looking for this and we couldn't find it anywhere, and I thought, well, okay, maybe I'll just find some Parfait Amour because I knew about Parfait Amour. And I couldn't find that either. But funny thing, many years ago, back in the 821, we had a friend, Ian, and Ian lived up in Oregon at the time. He had lived in Santa Cruz, but he moved up to Oregon. And so he was spending his time up there. And he came down, he was so excited once. He came down, he said, "Oh my God, have you guys had Parfait Amour?" And I said, "What is it?" He's like, "Oh, it's that stuff. It's the purple, and it's got the taste, and it has the taste, and it's got the you make cocktails." And we were like, "Okay, we're going to send you out as an ambassador. Find out more." And so the next time we saw him, he was like, "Sorry, I went to so Oregon, like Utah, has state stores. They have the liquor stores. You can't just go in. It's not like you have to go to the state store, and it's what they have is what you can get booze wise. So and they pretty much all have the same kind of stuff, but." So he couldn't make the state store. He's like, "Oh, I was in a bar and I tried this thing and that thing and then with the Parfait Amour. Oh, we gotta get some." So to make a long story even longer, he did finally come down and he brought a bottle, and we opened it up and we all tasted it, and it tasted, like flowers and sugar, and I thought it was a good thing. Some people said, "Oh, it tastes like perfume," But and we said, "Great, what should we make with it?" And he said, "Purple drinks." Stuff that would be purple with flowers and stuff. But he didn't know. So I said, "I'll find out. We'll figure this out." And we never did, unfortunately. And I don't know what happened to that bottle. It might be in a box somewhere still in the 821 stuff. But the memory lingers on, because I've had this book here. That's why I said the old Mr. Boston. I've had this book since I found it in my mom's stuff, and. My mom got it from her mom. And the reason that my mom got it from her mom, we have a problem? Thing going on? Are we still on the air? Are we interrupting this news program? We interrupt this news program to let you know that the dead are returning to life and eating the flesh of those that they killed. No. So this book came from my mom, and it came from her mom, but it came from my mom to her mom, and that's how I got it, because right in here it says, "To Mother, Christmas, 1967." And then it has my mom and my aunt's names. So I've had this book for a long time, and this was always I'll go to the old Mr. Boston. He'll set me straight. But the funny thing is, tonight, I open up this book looking for the Aviation, which I couldn't find. However, I did find, right in here, is a little piece of a Post-it note. And it says on it, actually has two things. One, it says Monkey Boy, which was one of our specialty drinks at the 821. And underneath that, it says Parfait Amour, which doesn't really answer any questions, but I thought it was interesting that the old Mr. Boston didn't have the Aviation, but I had written in Parfait Amour. Who knows why? Probably because I thought, I'm going to find out. And that was probably one of my notes to find stuff out. I don't know. But so there you go. Cheers, Ian, if you're not watching, I know. But I'll tell you to watch, and then you'll go, hey, you talked about me. So there you go. Interesting stuff. Parfait Amour. Oh no. You know, one thing I'm going to... I haven't actually tasted this stuff on its own, so I'm going to give it a little review for the with the cream de violet. You know what that tastes like? It tastes like a Choward's violet candy and a shot of vodka. Basically, which I find incredibly pleasing, and this bottle could go quickly because that's some good stuff. So, friends, Boozeketeers, if you're out in a bar, tell them you want the original Aviation, and if they don't bring out the cream de violet, you have my permission to start a riot. You don't have my permission to blame me for the riot, but as long as by riot, what I mean by riot is you can look indignant whilst you sit at the bar. Yeah, so go out, find yourself a bartender who will make you an Aviation that's proper, and you will not, well, you might be disappointed, but I won't be. You know, are you giving me, okay. I never know. Producer Maggie is always like, oh, good God, what have you done? And I never know. At least not until after. But, so hey, Boozeketeers. So, like I said, I was compiling the naughty list, and it's quite comprehensive. And as I was doing so, I came upon this page here that says tikiking.com/booze. And for those of you who don't know what that means, that's where you go to come here eventually. And to find the Tiki King portal to the virtual bartender and cocktail database, where you will find hundreds of fine recipes, the Aviation included as one of them, both recipes. There's Aviation 1 and Aviation 2, and I recommend the 2, but you can get your booze on there. There's a link to the YouTube channel, which has, like I said, all of the episodes up. Not this one, obviously, because this one's still recording. But it has that. It has a link to go get yourself some Boozeketeers gear at Cafe Press. You can get some fine shirts that have Boozeketeer logos. And it has the virtual tip jar, which means that every time you tip, we get tipsy. So, you know, I'd appreciate it. Go there, throw a coin in the basket. So yeah, so we were thinking, so early on in the show, and I'm talking like 50 episodes ago now, I think. Wow. We had talked about having a Boozeketeer roll call, because I thought that'd be fun, you know. Danny, CJ, Aaron, Maggie, Deanne, you know, like all the way down. And at the time I compiled a list, and it was like 120 names, and we realized it would take most of the show just to do the roll call. But we decided, we were thinking, there should be something for you guys. There should be something to be able to somehow publicize your shame out onto the internet. So we're thinking of some ideas. The most obvious one is if there's a couple of, you know, there's many paths to the true Boozeketeer. One is to get a fez that says Boozeketeers and then show it to me, and I'll be like, whoa, I don't even have one of those. The other is to find me and say, I watched the show, which I would know you did, because otherwise you wouldn't say, I mean, who would just come up, hey, I watched the show? Because why would you? And you'll get a pin, you know. If you find me out in the wild, you can accost me, get a Boozeketeers pin. We used to have a thing where you could mail for one, but that became very cumbersome. So to become a Boozeketeer, you don't need to prove it to anyone, except yourself. Becoming a Boozeketeer is a journey of the soul. It's a journey where your soul tries to get out through the top of your head, but then decides to reside down in your gullet, because that's where the booze is. You should remember that. it could come in handy when you meet Osiris and he asks you, what have you done? And you can show him your Boozeketeer's pen. And you'll be granted not an eternal life of peace and joy, but you may get to watch Set and Thoth as they do unspeakable things. But so I've been trying to decide how could we band together in a force that cannot be denied. And I was thinking maybe you could just comment, and then everyone would know, because you could say something right there, right here, right now on that there internet thing. You can comment and say, howdy Tiki King, howdy Producer Maggie, and maybe, if we don't know you, you know what we're going to do? We're going to say, hey, and we'll be excited about it. I might do it later because I can't do it right now on the show. But so that's one way to become a Boozeketeer, and then that's the that we call that level self-fulfilling prophecy level. So you can do that. And that carries its own reward in the mere print and the eternalness of the internet, where your name will be emblazoned upon a chat stream under my video for as long as Facebook exists. Which could be a long time, or could be not long at all if there's some sort of scandal. But, so then we thought, we could do that, which you should. There's other ways. You can send an email. You can send an email which has information of very sensitive nature. It could be things like, I happen to know of a bar. I happen to know of a place. I happen to know where you guys could come and film your show. And I would be there. Well, you would. When I say I, I'm speaking as you. So, and you say, and I would be there at that show, at that place. And guess what? You'd already be a Boozeketeer at that point, but I'd still reward you with a pin. And we'd get to drink together, which is its own reward, up to a point. But, so that's one of the ways. Then there's, you can, like I said, some people have chosen to remain anonymous, but which is most people who deal with me, because they're like, yeah, I'd rather not have that out there. But if you go to the virtual tip jar at tikiking.com/booze and chuck in a few coins, hey, I'll thank you live and in person on this here internet machine. I'll say, hey, thanks Boozeketeer so and so, if you want. Like I said, most people choose to remain anonymous, probably because they don't want other people hitting them up like I do. I love that sound. But whichever way you choose to go, there is no wrong path to becoming a Boozeketeer. You can send an email saying, hey, watched the show, I enjoyed it. You're a Boozeketeer. You can say, hey, I watched the show and enjoyed it in person. And guess what? We're both Boozeketeers. And that's where it becomes like a thing, right? You can comment, and your comments become part of the eternal record. Perpetuity. That's the third way, and 3 is a charm. 3 is my favorite number. My lucky number. It is the hidden path to none that resist, as they say. So anyway, there's probably more ways. There's probably other ways that I'm not even thinking about for you to become a Boozeketeer. But guess what? The truth is, you already are. You're watching the show right now. And in my book, that makes you a Boozeketeer without even trying. So here's to you, Boozeketeer. Thanks for tuning in. And if this is your first time, I'm glad I could be there for you. And if you've been here 63 times, hey, what is it about Tuesday night that leaves you at home? And if you've watched every other show, I think that's only about 30 times. But that's good enough for me. I'd say thank you 30 times. We don't have enough time to do that sort of thing. So instead, I'm just going to say, hey, you guys, next Tuesday, you know what we're going to do? We're going to be back here with you, with me, and we're going to do a whole bunch of stuff all over again. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you're enjoying your life. I hope you come out next weekend to Phoenix, Arizona. Come see the Wicked Tinkers and say, I'm a Boozeketeer. And we'll, clap arms around shoulders and march through the crowd proudly, knocking people out. No, we won't do that. But maybe you'll join us at Hula's Modern Tiki or Feed in the Undertow or something. Anyway, That's it. That's it. That's enough for me. Night, Boozeketeers.